Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Implementing Northstar at Your Agency. My name is Jose Adorno. I'm the Digital ATDN Coordinator at Advance. My role is working and supporting agencies with digital literacy in through professional development, trainings, workshops, webinars, uh, resources that we have been creating a lot lately, like in written form through posts and newsletters, and pretty much you can name it. We've done agency sessions. We also provide tech implementation and support for agencies that are looking for specific areas that they would like to continue to or need additional support in some of the areas or something a little bit more customized to address the needs. So we have down here our email, our digital ATM email, and we also have the website where you could actually, there's a typo, but what I'll do is I'll fix it before, I'll make sure I fix it before I share out the slides. But you also can reach out to me via email, which I'll put it at the end of the presentation as well. So maybe two more before. Perfect. Okay. As we continue through the presentation, I want to be conscientious of your time. Look, we're aim is it is a Friday, 3:30 to 5 is a little rough. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll check it periodically. You could also unmute and we could have the conversation as well. And with the introductions out of the way, we will start the session. So our objectives for today are to review. Let me make sure I mute my phone. There we go. Is to review the curricula available and the placement of Northstar among them. We're going to explore 3 levels of Northstar implementation. We're going to identify the importance of each implementation strategy, and we're going to test out the implementation scenarios presented. Welcome, everyone. Oh, yes, that's good. Yes, we will share the presentation. I'm aiming for Monday because I'll do the recording and the presentation, and then there's an evaluation form. I'll have a question that I'll kind of pose a little later on that I will include in the evaluation. To all that you will get together when you receive the slides and recording. Feel free to put in the chat who's here and your name and where you're from. Happy to see everyone here. Thank you so much for attending. So a couple things with this Northstar implementation. We did one last year, and trying to not make everything overlap and be that same identical thing, especially with this is our 3rd year using Northstar. So there's changes, there's best practices that come into play, things that we find and updates. So we want to make sure that things are fresh. So the first thing that I do have here is the getting started with Northstar training video. This training video covers features from Northstar, like creating the accounts, doing proctor assessment or how to do proctor assessments, access instructional resources, and more. This goes at a very in-depth on how to use Northstar, like about an hour and 30 minutes. And this is compared to what we had before when we received our initial training on Northstar was like about 6 hours of training. An hour and 30 minutes compared to the 6 hours. I'll take the hour and 30, right? So this you could do on your own pace. There's also lots of training videos and resources that I'll show you where you could find them that target specific questions. And then, as always, if you have any additional questions, you could also reach out to me or to our digital ATN email, and we could help out. We'll do tech support sessions if you wanted to walk. You're trying to figure something out. We do that from time to time, and it's free. There's no cost for that. The second piece, oh, it's not working. Let me see if I can refresh it. Give me 1 second. Let me present. I'm counting that we can still see the screen. Oops, we opened the video. There you go. Okay. So the Northstar implementation template. This is a template that was introduced last year, and it outlines the process of implementing Northstar within your agency. It includes links to the previous implementation sessions that we did. It also has a Northstar implementation example, and it also has um, the template that you could access, right? In other areas. So if we click here, again, you'll receive this. This is optional. You don't have to do this. But what we've seen is that there's some questions that of how you could use Northstar that depends on your intention and how to use it. So what this template does is that it goes over what is your goal, and then it'll kind of give you some ideas of how to make the smart goal with a gear approach, which is like how do you kind of purpose the the tool, and how you kind of make a combination of both when you're writing that objective or that goal. And then you have a list of questions. These questions will help go from the beginning as to who is going to be your Northstar admin, and it goes all the way down to if you wanted to do proctored assessments and how will you set that up and that kind of thing. There's different links here as well, and then there's a data management and reporting. For me, this is my favorite. I always like to see the data piece of it, and kind of with my background, it's part of it. But with the data management and reporting, you're able to do tags. I'll show you where you would see the reports, and I'll give you an idea. If I get a volunteer from one of the agencies later on, I'll show you how more or less that would look like. But your tags pretty much work as a classroom, and your class or your teacher that has the group of students that your teacher have, or location wise, it depends on how you want to set it up. But you have that there. All this information is right here. And then you also have how to create and activate accounts for learners. Sometimes if they don't know how to activate it, you could activate it on your own, and there's instructions here as well. So this implementation plan is free. You could access it. You could make a copy of it. Oh, I didn't show you the example. When you see here, click here for a Northstar implementation example. This is one that I filled in just to give you an idea of what it will look like and how you would complete each one. And then again, if you have any additional questions, you could go ahead and reach out, and we can work this out too. So that's with the Northstar implementation plan template. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat if you want to unmute. The previous session goes in depth with that, so I don't want to spend the time for the session going over the plan. What I'll do is I'll time when the conversation of the plan starts in the session, and that way you could go from there. So questions, right? And what I'll do is we're gonna do this in the chat. I just curious to see where everyone's at. You could do yes or no questions. I'll read them out. I'll give you like 10 seconds. I'll say go, and you just hit enter, and we'll get them as what they call as a waterfall. Did it one time, it was pretty cool. Being a smaller group, it's easier to actually see this. So I'll just ask a question. The first one is, have you used Northstar in the classroom? Oh, I like it. No, 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 yes. You got them all in one, right? Have you used Northstar in the classroom? First question. There you go. Yes, no, yes, yes. Oh, we kind of have split, almost half. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Second question. Have you tried a Northstar module? Okay, so there's more yes on this one than no's. And then the third one, have you taken a Northstar assessment? Okay, perfect. And last but not least, oh, my bad. I left the word there. Are you aware that Northstar is available at at your agency? There you go. So this last one is a trick question. Those agencies that the North Shore paid for agencies that opted in. So what that means is that you needed to have, um, I think it goes to the director, right? If they opt in for the license, then the agencies have access. Some have access and they don't know, they haven't used it. And we're working with those agencies to make sure that they're using it. Um, but what if anyone that answers no here, you could send me a private message if you like, and I'll look at it after, and I could take a look and see. There's a handful of agencies that do not have access to it that opted out for this year. So those will not have access to it. However, if you do, then I will connect you to the Northstar admin, whoever that Northstar admin is at your agency, and we could go from there. And then if there's any support, any questions that you would like to do, or any ways that you're looking to implement, we're also available to support. Thank you everyone for participating. So the digital literacy focus with Northstar, there's three main sections. You have your essential computer skills on your left. You have the phone keyboard basics and logging in. This is brand new, came out November 1st, I think is when they announced it, or at least that's when I noticed it. They have the basic computer skills. They updated the internet basics, and they have using email, Windows 10, 11, and Mac. In your essential software skills, you have your Microsoft Word, your Excel, PowerPoint, and Google Docs. Last but not least, you have your using technology in daily life, which is your social media, information literacy, career search skills, accessing telehealth appointments, supporting K-12 distance learning, and your digital footprint. Okay. I like to simplify this. Catherine. Perfect. I'm going to go to that in like the next couple slides, but I like that you mentioned it. So the way I like to explain these three is with a question that they strive to answer, right? In essential computer skills, you answer the how do you interact with technology? How do you sign in? How do you log in? How do you manage the keyboard? How do you use the mouse? What are the ways that you interact with technology? And this is like your interface level. You have your essential software skills that answer the question, what can you do with the technology? Here goes a little bit more in depth with the creation, right? You get some of the navigation under the essential computer skills, but really the creation piece, some of the collaboration and those areas come under the essential software. And finally, the using technology in daily life answers, how do you apply the technology in day-to-day activities? So you start to see how the the benefits from using technology, but also you get some of the, being careful if you're looking at your digital footprint and you're using social media. There's some safe practice. There's some best practices to keep your data safe and private. And understanding that when you're interacting in an online platform or social media in other programs, in that's also covered here. But you're looking at more of being exposed to the different uses that you could get out of by using technology. Requirements for Northstar. So Northstar recommends a program for students that have 211 CASAS reading score. This applies to the Northstar online learning system, which is also known as NSOL, and the lessons. You need a pair of headphones or earbuds for the Northstar online learning system, and you need access to a PC, a laptop, or a Chromebook. Please note that while tablets and smartphones may access Northstar, the modules and assessments may not score properly. Usually because one of the big things, screen is so tiny, so small, and your finger is it has covers more than what a pointer does. Some of the assessments and the simulations involved require you, let's say, to press the start button. So when you try to tap the start button, you could tap outside, and once that tap takes place, it's counted as a click, and that triggers the response. So sometimes a student will try a couple times, oh, but I know this is where you need to press, and it doesn't work. I did mention last year that they were working, or they were in conversations of having a mobile version. That's not out yet. They have a list of different things that they're trying to improve. And I know part of it is, if there's funding for different areas, once they reach out, which they tend to do like in a monthly, then we'll probably find out. I know it's on their list of things to do. I always say you submit a ticket if it's a feature that you want to see sooner. The more tickets are submitted for any of the features that you're looking for, the higher the demand is, and that I think that my understanding of that that's taken into consideration when they're doing improvements as well. Just fun fact there. Now, we briefly touched upon the Northstar, right? And the here we wanted to show you the curriculum progression for digital literacy development. This I've shared a couple times now, but I think it's like visually easy to see where we are with the different tools. First, starting, well, as you see, Northstar is like our middle there, and you'll see why shortly. But to your left of Northstar, you have the dark curriculum. The dark curriculum we did a pilot last year. We released it literally last week, a week from today. We talked about, we released it to the field during the ASL day. It's free to access. There's no cost for that. It's for pre-beginner, beginner, and ESL and digital literacy learners. It incorporates Northstar beginning on lesson 10. So anything previous to that, the way that the curriculum is structured is that you have paper first, front loading like the information, what are the vocabulary, what are the skills that the learners are going to be practicing, how to be familiar with the keyboard, and how to be familiar with the mouse before you actually go and use the technology itself. Then after that, once you start like around lesson 10, it starts to go into Northstar, looking at how to sign in, how do you start. It kind of builds on some of those components that overlaps with Northstar, and then you start using Northstar. As you see, it's great as a supplemental resource. It was one of the pros from using Dart last year. One of the positives from Dart, that anything that students were struggling with Northstar, they were going to Dart to use to provide additional support, additional practice, or address it a different modality, or throughout the printout and that kind of thing. As you see, the digital and English language levels are low, so there's not a big requirement in knowing. Technically, digital skill level could be 0, right? Because it starts on paper and it works to build up to using the computer. With Northstar, which is what we just covered, you could assess students, which we'll look at that as well. You could offer self-paced modules. They could earn certificates and badges. And you could track students' progress in Northstar, and it's available in Spanish. As you see, the English language level, because it's I put 212, 211, it's slightly it's higher because of the score. So sometimes that's where that one of the big barriers are, that at level of entry for some of the ESL or um, low ABE learners, which then Dart is kind of that ramp to get students onto Northstar. And then again, Northstar is kind of that ramp to get students into Google Applied Digital Skills. In Google Applied Digital Skills, it requires basic digital literacy skills. They need to sign in, have an account in Google, and be able to, in order to track student progress, and or they could track where they are and that kind of thing through Google. So what we recommend is that if that's your approach, then you're looking at three modules to use: the basic computer skills, the internet basics, and using email. Having those three will give you a solid foundation for a student to be ready to navigate and use Google Applied Digital Skills, especially because you have to maneuver through different tabs while you're going through it. They're also self-paced, and you can earn certificates. Northstar, you can earn a certificate and you can earn a badge if you pass a proctored assessment. That badge, students could put it in your LinkedIn, and not a certification, it's a certificate. Okay. But also in Northstar, you could put them in laces. It's not counting for specific, it's not counting specific outcomes. In if you have a grant, it might be a little different, but you're able to put them in, at least record it and upload a certificate there too. If you have any questions, you could put it in the chat. If I can't see anyone on my screen right now, but if you do have any, if you want to share, you are more than welcome to unmute as well. I would, same thing as the sections for Northstar, I would use one sentence or one focus for each one. If you had to, if you say, okay, Jose, just tell me one thing about each, because there's too much things going on, right? In Dart, it builds a strong foundation of digital literacy with a focus on language development, right? So we're looking at beginner and pre-beginner ESL as your main focus, or the approach I've always written. With Northstar, you build a strong digital literacy foundation with a focus on the creation and application of technology. How do you navigate using the technology? What can you create and do with the technology? And then how do you apply it? And then Google Applied Digital Skills, you build a strong foundation on technology application. So you're looking at a variety of different life related scenarios. They show you how to do, if you wanted to host a party, and then how would you use internet? You will search internet and use a spreadsheet to log that information in. And there's like, you create a website because you're all trying to open a business and you needed to look up and do research. If you're looking to there's one even for negotiating your salary. How do you look up information on the salary? And then from there, you would make notes and things like that. So it's very it's applied, but you need to have some sort of basic already with the technology in order to be able to navigate through it. So that's why we recommend those three modules. Question: is Northstar limited to classroom use only? Can students access at home once an account has been created? Yes. A student that has access to Northstar can work from home. There is a setting that I'm hoping to, that I'll show you when we go to the Northstar online learning system, where you would record, a student will click in if they're outside of school, and then that tracks as like a proxy time. So you get like your proxy breakdown and you have like your in classroom breakdown. So if you're trying to record that, you will have that option. You're welcome. So the Northstar Digital Literacy Overview. I went through the website, try to get all the information in one place. So you had one slide with everything that you could think of, or like quick overview, right? There's 312 standards. That's counting the smartphone, keyboard basics, and logging in. It's 20 different areas across these three groups. Keep clicking. These three sections, right? There's a total of 17 assessments. So these that you see that are bold red do not have assessments. They only have standards. And then there's 15 modules. Again, looking at these numbers, you have your smartphone, keyboard basics and logging in, Google Slides, Google Sheets, Google Drive, and supporting K-12 distance learning. These do not have modules, or it's not part of NSOL. When we were looking a few slides earlier in essential software skills, the last one we saw was Google Docs. We didn't see slides, sheets, or Drive listed. However, they do have standards for these three areas. If you are really interested in using Google tools, I recommend to do the Google Applied Digital Skills. They have a workplace, I think it's called Google Workplace, within Google Applied Digital Skills, where you could actually take how to learn how to use like I think it's Drive, Forms, slides, sheets. There's like all these different tools and you can use them. If you're looking for the certificate, however, only one that you could really do in Northstar is your Google Docs. But again, Google Applied Digital Skills also has certificates. It just doesn't have the badges. So I added the number here. You have 7 for essential computer skills, 7 for software skills, 6 for using technology in everyday life. Question: students just can't test when not proctored, correct? It's a yes and a no. Well, if they're not proctored, they could still test. They won't earn a certificate or a badge until they test proctored.
Hi, it's Kathy. Sorry. But
Yes,
you can override that, right? There's like a way to override the proctor piece.
there's a way to override it if you did proctor them, but let's say they went in and
Didn't
took it.
click right. And that's what I ran into the other night. There was an issue where it getting it all set up and they took the assessment and I was like, "Oh no." And you
Yes,
can,
you
but
can.
yeah, as
We'll
long as
need
it
to
was
probably touch base after.
okay.
And then we could take a look.
Okay.
But if that's a specific scenario, right? That means that she was actually proctoring the test, and the student went in and took an unproctored one.
Right.
There's cases in those cases you can. If let's say the student did it at home and they came in, then they
No.
passed in an unproctored one. You still want them to go in
Right.
under
Okay.
proctored and
Sorry.
do it. Yeah. But
Thank you.
yes, well, in your scenario, yes, you could override that. There's instructions for it. I don't recall right now where it is, but we could touch base. Thank you for the question. Northstar will be covered in 3 scenarios. We're going to look at building foundational skills. We're going to look at standards and curriculum. We're going to look at Northstar online learning and assessments. Through each scenario, we will increase the components used in Northstar. And as a Northstar staff user, you're more than welcome to use all 3 scenarios for additional opportunities to integrate and develop digital skills. Or you could choose a scenario based on the learner's digital skills and language learning ability. Remember, the technology's role in the classroom should be similar to the role of a pencil, a paper, or a book, as they're used as tools. Technology is a tool for you. So just as technology is, just as your other ways to learn as a tool, you could use technology as a tool. And I know that there's always the, well, technology's taking over a lot. Not everything that we do necessarily on a pencil is a paper or it's reading. There's a combination of different activities that activate different parts of the brain that take place at different parts of a lesson. So technology could take part of a lesson. It doesn't have to be the entire lesson. But that's what we're aiming is to have more integration in the classroom and not just being separate. It's like we're looking at it again as a lab. You have reading labs that will help hone reading skills. If you have a writing lab, you have students practicing writing. Yes, those are separate computer lab, right? Same concept. Those are in isolation to focus on some of those skills. But eventually, or when you're looking in the classroom, they all kind of mesh together. You use reading and you use writing. You don't just use writing during the writing lab. You incorporate writing lab in the class. I mean, incorporating writing skills or opportunities to practice those skills in the classroom. So with technology and with digital skills, you're doing the same approach. And these implementation scenarios or strategies will also work along those lines. So our first implementation is building foundational skills. The Northstar standards go as basic as turning a computer on or off to using search strategies to find relevant information online. The digital skills represent across the areas. The digital skills represented across the areas show the path on how a learner can increase digital proficiency as they gain autonomy in their computer skills. However, not all learners are able to engage at this level. Common factors will be the basic levels of English that they come in with, the lack of digital experience, sometimes a combination of both. Didn't mention it here, but there's also their experience in school. Some learners come in to adult education and they don't have any education background. And all these are different factors that come into play when you're trying to build some foundational skills in digital literacy. Kind of the reason why you have a lot of troubleshooting and things that happen in the classroom because these things weren't in place before, or they just don't have enough experience. Now, this approach is great for learners that are not proficient in technology, are considerably below the 211 CASA score requirement, that need considerable practice to develop mouse, keyboard, or other foundational skills, or that require vocabulary and concepts in advance to help with understanding. Now we're looking at here the essential computer skills. And what we would like to focus on is on three: the basic computer skills, internet basics, and using email. This is where what we're going to focus on to start our first step of implementation in the classroom, or our first stage. Why is this approach important? So I have here a little video playing the seesaw effect. So what similarities can you draw from the seesaw effect and digital learning? So looking how the seesaw goes up and down with that check mark and X. What can you share? And you could unmute or you could put it in the chat. Again, we're looking at similarity within the seesaw. I'll play it again. And digital learning. Practice helps retention. Interesting. I didn't see it like that, but right, the more you practice, the closer you'll be to that check mark. Nice thought. There seems to be a give and take with each side. Yes, right. So progressively, you see it go up and down and up and down, and it's going between that green check mark and the X. Struggling at first and then succeeding. Yes. Even when someone doesn't know a skill, you can teach them and build. Awesome. Yes. These are when you think you know it, there's more to know. Oh, that happens so much to me. I totally resonate with that. So I think I got it, and all of a sudden, boop, there's something new, or something just shifts. I say, okay, this is not what I thought anymore. Thank you everyone for sharing. Very insightful. So the seesaw effect. A learner needs to leverage the skills that they already know to learn new ones and make connections. A learner that is struggling with accessing learning opportunities will, accessing learning opportunities will be weighed down by the limitations and affect the learning process. So we're looking at this seesaw, right? We're looking at the left. Left is where the students already know. So if we put too much strain on something new or a challenge, technology is a big factor for students to kind of shut down, because if they know they either know technology and are very proficient, or they don't. And if they don't, and they're struggling with it, they shut down. They can't engage in learning. We're forced to making sure that, not forced, wrong word, but we will need to take the time to really teach them how to manage the technology. And now the shift went from what they were working on or learning to the troubleshoot piece that's making that's is that current barrier to learn. So the goal here is that you want to have students have some control and have their feet on the ground where they could then push up or go down based on what they need to practice or what the goal is that they're gaining through the technology. So we're having Google Classroom and they're trying to access their lesson. If they can't access Google Classroom, they can't access the lesson. So what are ways that you could help that student be able to access the lesson? How can you simplify it so then they could still have somewhat of a balance and they could still have some control on their learning? This is also an example of rigor. If everything you teach them and they're down there underground, there's nothing that they're not engaged. They just, unless they actually make an effort to jump, they're gonna go straight down because it's too easy. There's no rigor. How can you keep how can you keep the seesaw in a way where you both challenging them to to improve, but without taking all the control away in the learning process? We introduced this last year, and there were a few updates already made for this. And this is the digital literacy skills checklist with Northstar standards. The purpose of the document is to highlight the foundational digital literacy skills that are applied and leveraged in the classroom through the implementation of activities, lessons, and assessments. There's two pieces or two sections from the scope and sequence that we used. One of them was the standards, and the other one was the unit specific vocabulary. And I'll click here so I could show you. Let me zoom in so it's easier to see. I think 200 is too much. To 150. Okay, so you have here the three modules that we talked about. We have basic computer skills, we have internet basics, and using email. So you have the list of standards here for each one. And then you have the unit specific vocabulary that appears in the scope and sequence, right? The goal here is to pick a technology, and we're going to try to do this activity. If I feel that it takes too long, I'm going to probably keep it to 5 minutes just to make sure we have time for the rest. If not, if I feel that it's cutting in too much, we're going to skip the second activity. But the instructions is to make a copy of this document, which I'll share with you. And you're going to select the technology application that is already used in the classroom. So if you have Google Applied Digital, if you use Google Applied Digital Skills, if you use Northstar, if you use Burlington English, which is one of the state also is now offering seats that you could use at your agency. If there's any other tool, just pick one. Don't pick too many. Just pick one, and when you read through the standards, what you would like, what you would do is check off the standards that or the skills that those students would use in order to access that tool that they would use in order to engage with that tool. And once you do your selection, think on how many standards did you select and how many standards that you select for each area. And if there's any skills or you would like to have seen in this document that you didn't see, is there anything missing that you know students struggle with? Again, this is building like a general um this is building a general. Oh, my bad. I copied the wrong thing. There you go. That's the link. I have no idea what I sent out. Oh, I sent out the presentation. My apologies. Yes. So we want to take a couple minutes. Again, just taking a quick look just so you could see how the document works. You select a couple that you and like turning on a computer on and off. Just turn the computer and monitor on and off as an example. I checked it off. Um, if that's a step that you have students do, let's say you have students come in and they have to turn on the computer and then sign in and do all of that, then you could check it off. If it's something that the students do not do, then um, you don't check it off. Think about the process that you go through with the student when you're using technology with that specific tech application, and then that's how you make your selection. I'm gonna give you it's 4:16. I want to make sure we have enough time for the rest of it. Let's start with 3 minutes. I wanted to, let's do 4:20. We'll resume at 4:20. And then the thought here is you're more than welcome to share just what are your thoughts with experience or something that you're um something you will change, you would like to see, that kind of thing. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
So it's Kathy. I might be
Mm-hmm.
lost. So we're thinking about something that we do in the classroom and then looking at what standards we would then use or the students need to know in order to be successful with those lessons. Is that what we're doing? I'm sorry, I was a little lost.
Okay, so the document right, is a
Yep.
checklist.
Yep.
So if you're, let's say you use Burlington English in the classroom, then when you go over the standards, when you're just reading through them, would this be something that a student would do in order to access Burlington English, let's say?
So
Um,
would it match if we were doing something on like the digital literacy skills website, the .org? Like say we were doing a lesson on social media and
yeah,
looking at
so
the internet basics to then say, what do these students need to understand before I do the lesson about social media?
so that's the way you could approach it.
Oh,
There is a social media standard list.
mhm.
This here would look at more, or at least approach for this checklist is what the students need to know in order to access that social media lesson that's online.
Right. So if I look at like, if we're looking at even tab, like, hot links, what
Oh,
not?
what? Sorry.
If we were looking at like hyperlinks and buttons, like, so you're saying that knowing that they would have to know what those hyperlinks meant for like a safety, like if it were a safety lesson about social media,
Hmm.
not to click on certain things. So you're looking for alignment between those lessons and Northstar, right? Is that what?
So this is in particular. So that's a more advanced version of it, right? So
Okay.
like more the skills that you're using there, it's aligned to, let's say, your the social media lesson or module from Northstar, and then you could use those standards. This first one is more the approach of how what students need to do in order to access that lesson.
Or even like an online digital curriculum, like stand up? Like what do they need, what skills do they need to have in place before?
Exactly, like you're doing an onboarding. So if you,
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
so if there's a hyperlink that they need to click, then they need to know what a hyperlink is, and then when you click on the hyperlink, it's supposed to open something. So then those are like the standards that
Gotcha.
oh, this is
Now I
like
got
your foundation piece,
it. Yep,
onboarding to be able to level that seesaw.
gotcha. Sorry. It's after work. It was a long day. It's been a
It's
long
okay. It's okay. I wasn't clear. My apology.
day. No, no, no.
What I would do, however, just for time purposes, um, now that the sense of that document is there, we'll move on because we have like about half hour, which is good news because we're almost done, right? But I want to make sure that we could go over some of it. Um, if you are inclined to send me what you did and that kind of thing, I am more than happy to respond to you. We could talk about it and all that kind of stuff. So I am open for that. I'll share my link, my email at the end. If you wanted to do that, it's optional. You don't have to, but if you wanted to talk about it, kind of get an understanding of how this might work, I'm more than happy to support in that sense. Okay. So remember, before we move to the next one, and depth is probably not the best word to use for it, but it was the one that was showing the highlight, which is what I wanted to bring forth. And it's that you do not need to change the way you teach. This approach acts like highlighting a portion of a text where you bring awareness. So in the text, if you're looking here at a dictionary, you have all these words, and it's kind of nothing stands out. Everything is just, you have to read through and make sense out of it. The purpose of this tool is to highlight those skills that you are using in the classroom, looking at it as an onboarding thing. So if you're going to use a lot the mouse in the classroom and students are struggling with the mouse, what are some ways that you could bring mouse practice that's aligned to what they need to do in order so they can get some practice, but without overwhelming them that much, and that kind of thing. But again, it's more of highlighting the skills that they're about to use or how to engage. Um, like Catherine was mentioning, when you're looking in the social media, just how them accessing the social media lesson, what are those skills, and making sure that you're modeling those skills, that you're supporting those skills so students could access the lesson and then learn about social media and engage in these other standards as well. Our second implementation is standards and curriculum. So the Northstar standards can be accessed without signing in, but the other available resources are behind the staff account. Um, your Northstar administrator can create these accounts for new users. And something that I wanted to put it here, those that are new to Northstar, the Northstar Online Learning System, which is the NSOL, that is what the students see. So when a student gets an account, they would see that that's what they access to, where the modules are. They they can even take the assessments through there and all that information. A teacher would have has access to that as well, as long as the admin checks off. So it's not like you need two accounts to access the NSOL. It's all included in your staff account. And if you don't have it, then it's a matter of the admin to check it off for you. So how do you access the curriculum and the resources? So you have a blue bar, which I don't want to spend too much time here, so I could show you live. But you'll have the blue bar here, and then you have your curriculum here, or you have your own curriculum option up here that will take you to see all that information, all the lessons, the scope and sequence, and other useful resources. In the resources section here, some recommendations. If you're starting brand new with Northstar, then you're doing the quick start guide. Okay, that will kind of walk you through like more. It combines some of the tutorials, some of the manual, and other pieces, and it kind of gives you a start guide. If you already have been using Northstar and you have questions, the manual has a lot of links to different sections to the manual. It will show you how to do things. It has tons of screenshots on how to access and do several things. You have your video tutorials, which is very much the same. It's just they're also available on YouTube, where you could actually access these and show them. Or they're short too, so they don't. I don't think I want to say the longest is 4 minutes, maybe. But they're short enough for you to go over. And then they have other resources as well. This section here, they have screeners if you wanted to look at more like for basic learners, and they have like some additional resources that they used back in the day that are still useful. Links to other external resources, and all that information is available here. The Northstar curriculum, when you select the Northstar curriculum, you have several options here. The documents that this right here is what what I had screenshotted earlier on. To access the lesson plans and scope and sequence, the projects and everything that they have included, you will click on these and it will just open that for you. But the three that I highlight here as to worth your time is your scope and sequence. I mean, they're all worth your time, but the scope and sequence is my favorite because everything that you need for that unit shows there. You get your standards. And actually, what I'll do is I'll model this. Let me go into Northstar so I can show you. 1 second. My apologies. Already signed me out. I thought I had it open on the next window. Okay, so this is my at advanced location, right? So I click here to curriculum. It'll open a new tab for me. You have some lessons up here. Not lessons, resources like for remote teaching. They have also like you see routines to build essential digital literacy skills in ESL. So they continue to update and they release them in the monthly um, emails that they send out. You have here. I'm going to click for Internet Basics as the example. But all of these have lessons available. They don't all have modules though. This is an example. Supporting K-12 distance learning. It's not one that you have access to modules, but they do have I guess you don't I mean you call them lessons. It's just it's they're slightly different. There's not a module, is what I'm trying to get at, right? But let's click on Internet Basics. This is the go-to, the scope and sequence. This includes links to all of the lessons, plus the list of standards for that unit, plus the vocabulary word, all in one document. And that document's like 2 to 3 pages. So it's worth having like that document. You have your unit project, which is CCRS aligned as well, which is like that application of that skill, just like you would look at a Google Applied Digital Skill lesson. And then you have the College and Career Readiness Standards Alignment Map, which pretty much shows you what anchor standards are being referenced, and it'll tell you like in what lesson or if it's across the unit and that thing. I'll show you the scope and sequence now for modeling purposes. Let's see if I could zoom a little bit more. So again, as you see here, what we use for implementation 1 is actually this here for internet basics, basic computer skills, and using email. And what we pulled was the standards and the vocabulary. But as you can see, you could navigate to different lessons here, and they're ready to use. So if you click on navigating websites, let's say this could be one where it might overlap a little bit with what was mentioned earlier, like if you were trying to navigate the internet to get access to a social media module, let's say, then this doesn't have to be an entire lesson. You could probably just take chunks of what would be related is to teaching that skill that the students will then be able to do after. And then it just walks you through the modeling, explaining there's handouts and references. This one has the module, which we'll look a little bit later, but then again, it's just here starts the references, right? And it'll go on. So it'll tell you which, okay, you're gonna look at reference A, this is how you'll ask the questions, or this is how you run the activity. So everything is ready to go if you just wanted to use it just how it is. If you wanted to do less of it, or you just wanted to highlight a specific activity, that's something that you can do as well. But everything that you need will show in your, and then again, you'll see like your Northstar standards that are being targeted here and the vocabulary. So like here's a hyperlink. So if I wanted to see a vocabulary work, I'm gonna go here to handout C. Oh, they don't have hyperlink on this part. But again, you get the idea. You're able to see the information here. And in the modules itself, then they go over each one and they'll explain it in more detail. They'll model it for you. They'll ask for the learner to show. So if it's something that you want to just show the classroom, you could, as a teacher, you could do that. You just share your screen, your NSOL, and then you could show them as well. So this approach is great for learners that need digital literacy guidance, modeling, and support. They're receiving whole class instruction. If they need differentiation, right? Or or they're being introduced to a unit. Um, if you're already using tools, activities, or applications that align to the standards for the lesson units, you could use part of them as well. So you have that flexibility of how much you involve, and all of this is even before going into Northstar and giving them access to do the modules independently. So I'm going to skip this here so we can have enough time for implementation 3. I'm going to skip the activity. I'll share it with you. Activity pretty much is asking how, why, not why. The activity is going over, like looking at the scope and sequence, um, and comparing it to like an activity that you're doing in the classroom. Again, looking at the standards as that, how learners are accessing it. That's like that first approach. But then if once you're going into more specific, like using technology in daily life, which is that third, the application base, then you're not as much looking at the essential computer skills if the students are already showing that proficiency in the technology, or how using technology. This is going to be very important for those learners that are struggling. Again, looking at that seesaw. Students are very proficient in technology. This is the green check mark, and they're like this. Then you focus more on your application ways to apply it, and take more advantage of it, because then that will balance it a little bit more, because then you're engaging in the learning process, engaging them in the learning process. Implementation number 3 is the Northstar online learning and assessments. For time purposes, what I'll do is I'll go over this very quickly. I'm going to go into online so you can see it, right? So there's 3 ways that you can navigate the modules in the Northstar online learning. You have the standards, you have the lessons, and you have the assessments. So if I am going into the admin portal, or that's where I'm signing in. When a student signs in, they'll usually go to the name and they click on Northstar Online Learning. When a staff signs in, I'll take them here first. And then same thing. If you wanted to go into the Northstar Online Learning, you click here and you'll click on Northstar Online Learning. Just for reference, those the staff that oh, I should have done this different. 1 second. Thing's gonna have me go back in. Open a new tab. Okay. For clarification purposes, only the learner is going to be able to see their progress in Northstar Online Learning. The teacher's only able to see the teacher's progress or whatever they worked on in the Northstar Online Learning. If you wanted to see what they do out, and you have to be like in the admin portal where you could run the reports or view like the learners. That's where you see all their information. Um, if you go into Northstar Online Learning, you get to have like the same experience that learners have. So this is the question. I think it was asked earlier. Um, if you are physically at the Northstar location. So this, instead of at advanced, it will say Shoreline, it will say EastCon, it would say whatever the agency name that's here. So if they the student, if they are in the classroom, then they'll say yes. If they are at home, then they'll say no, and then this will be recorded as to like outside of the classroom. This is what you would consider like that proxy time. And here you'll see a list of the essential computer skills of the lessons. This was like that old internet basics, and the new one that they did, that they updated. You have your software skills and you have your technology in daily life. I am going to email, because this was the assessment that I did on purpose. These are the three that you could see. You have your practice. This will take you to that part of the module. I mean, you could start practice, and that will take you from the beginning of the module, and you could, and the students or you can work through it. If there's anything specific that you're trying to target, then you could go here and you could see which one, or you could just tell the students, okay, I want you to practice the sending and receiving email, and then they will watch this and watch this, and then if you guys want to debrief or you wanted to do it in the classroom, modeling for the whole class, that kind of thing, students won't be able to get any completion if they just watch the teacher do it. If that's something you want them to do, then they have to click on here specifically. Um, you could do it by standard, and by standard here you'll see, based on the assessment that the student took, then it would mark anything that they are proficient and anything that they need. I think they call it, yeah, mastered. Nah. Anything that they have mastered or anything that they need improvement. This is great if they did the assessment and they say they only just had a few wrong. They could go in here and take a look at what it was and do it. Just keep in mind that if you're trying to have students work through the modules, you can still ask them to do the module if you're trying to count time, or you could probably assign them the unit project in order to keep them engaged into the same module, if that's a requirement. So let's say if it's a CDP class and they need the seat time, they might still need to do the module, or they might need to do the unit project, or you have a couple ways to play around. But just keep in mind that if there's seat time involved, then they really don't. There's no option to skip unless you spread out, and if you have like a part one and a part two on computer applications as the example, then and you're selecting specific content, then they have to go through the content in order to meet the requirements of the credit. So again, it varies by student. If it's just ESL and GED, or there's specific goals attached to it, like maybe they could create their own website and they started to work on some of these, they could start working on that other project. So there's, again, it really depends on that goal, which is why that Northstar implementation plan then comes a little bit more into play, because then you could kind of visualize how you're going to approach it. But the other thing here, you have your assessment history. You could see what they completed. You'll see all the different assessments that they took, and you could see well, they can see what they completed in each one. You can see that under the learner side, under the for learners, they could also have access to see it. So if you know that they need to work on lessons, standards 9, 10, and 11, you could let them know, go into your standards section tab in your internet basics in Northstar and do your 10, 11, and 12 practice. And then you could track that on the on your learner side, and they could see it here too, what they complete. They'll get like check marks for anything that they complete. Any questions with this so far? If there's any questions, feel free to jump in. Just wanted to point out that if there is a standard, let's say you want them to practice this one, it will continue the module. It won't stop once they cover that standard. It'll just continue running. Just wanted to point that out. I had a student go over and say, "Well, why is it still running?" And they had to pass everything else, but they just kept going. So we have the learners, right? You could select the learner and you could see, as you see here, there's these badges. These badges, this is history. These badges are grayed out because they are not proctored. Once you pass a proctored, you get, and this is the point. If you want me to, if you want to be, want us to share your agency so you can see more accurate information, just let me know and I could do that. But this will be in color, and then that would mean that that was a proctored, a past proctored. So when you look at the learner, you'll see off the bat if they pass proctored or not. This is just a testing database, so that you won't see that here. Um, Now, the other piece I wanted to talk was reports. The I'm going to click on view summary, right? And this tends to be very useful. This will be a great one for me to show if someone volunteers, agency wise. And I'll run it so you could see a better representation. So you could filter results if you use tags, which is part of that implementation template. We recommend students to we recommend agencies to use tabs because then this would be your equivalent of a class, or if it's a teacher, or if it's a location. So you could assign these different tags, and then when you're running these reports, you could filter that way. Sometimes some agencies have them by session. So your fall 2024 session. Windsor, perfect. Okay, thank you for volunteering. Let me go switch quickly. Oh, I went backwards. It's not where I wanted to go. And I won't do the learner side because that's where all the names are. I'm just gonna go into the location here. So that way we have okay, so we're gonna go to reports, right? So you have your unique users, the number of hours, assessment time, total time. It just gives you a quick breakdown, right? This breakdown is based on the time or range that you have. I'm gonna run it for actually I'm gonna leave it. I'm just gonna run the whole thing. Um, just to make sure we get something. The more specific, if you're doing it monthly or that kind of thing, you could do that. Um, you have your fall, AM and PM. I'm not gonna run it by tag right now, but you could select it and you only get the information for those learners. If you do the summary report, yeah, a second. It froze on me. Am I still online?
Yeah, you're still here.
I can't scroll up. Well, thank you. Do I have this? Maybe I have this zoomed. 1 second. I'm trying to go to this tab right here, and I can't get to it. Um, so I'm going to filter results, right? I already did the filter results. And now we get to view the report, right? This is the detailed report. So if we go back, going back to reports, and I click here on view detailed reports, I can filter by time, by tags, and all that stuff. For right now, I don't want to do that so you can see more information. You have your basic computer skills, right? You get the records, number of passing, percentage. If you click on view report, you're able to scroll down and you could get a breakdown by standard. You could see this at a learner level and see which ones they are that they mastered or they need improvement. But here, as a group, if you're doing this at a full classroom and you're running this report, everyone did the assessment. Here, you could say which standards that you know that they need more help on. So right now, 1 to 4, they're okay. USB port 5, they're okay. Well, this might be something you could cover. If you click on it, it'll give you like a little image of what the question was. So it was identifying the USB port, gives you that reference to know what was asked. It's just you can't practice it online or practice it on the classroom in the classroom, like in the assessment itself.
This
You
is
can continue to
awesome.
scroll.
Okay.
What was
Sorry,
that?
need to interrupt. This is awesome. Oh my goodness.
So they didn't have this last year. When we did the
No, this is
implementation
amazing.
last year, they didn't have it. That was something that I started to do in a spreadsheet, me with my spreadsheets. And then I asked, and they started to work on it. I guess it was a quick fix because they had it right away. But I was trying to do like an image of the same thing for I did for Tops Pro, which unfortunately is not standards. Those are not anymore. But they added this and I was so excited. It saved me so much time trying to figure that out.
It's
But
a great teaching tool too, because you can just pull it and then show them the visual instead of
exactly.
having to go
Yeah.
and look for the visual.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yep. So right now you see the left of cursor, you see that it's 48%. It's great standard to cover in person. I mean, to cover whole class. When you click on it, you see the image. If you wanted to, I mean, there's always a teaching to the test. But if you wanted to get some examples, you want to pull images and things like that, then you can do that. You could cover it, talk about it. Um, But in order for learners to get here, they need to be able to sign in. They need to be able to use a computer to take the assessment. And that's where that struggle was. Those other two implementation strategies really build on the skills to get learners to be able to use technology, or in this case, if you're trying to onboard them to Northstar, get them to Northstar to get so you could get this information and target learners, learner skills, or um, develop their digital literacy. And again, you could see make computer easier to use. Demonstrate understanding that it's possible to customize a computer for increased accessibility. Um, Customizing mouse for left-handed use and sensitivity and changing screen resolution. So you just have here, this is the control panel, right? So now you could have them go back and do the module, or you could open the control panel, talk a little bit about it if it's something that you're looking to teach, and now you have like this other way to interact and work with them. And if it's something that you know you have 19.8, you say, okay, learners, I want you to go into we covered this, I want you to go into your NSOL, I want you to complete this section of the module. And again, that's practicing navigation. Now they need to go to NSOL. They need to look up their lesson, the lesson that's correlated here, looking for standard number 23 and clicking on it. If a learner has a lot of difficulty with technology, you're going to lose them along the way. That's where a lot of that troubleshooting happens. So maybe for those students, you might need maybe you print it out, maybe you model it with them, maybe you pair them with learners that could access it, or you're using the other implementation strategies in order to build them on how to um kind of onboarding them to Northstar. Sorry, I was reading the question and trying to finish my thought at the same time. Bigger picture. How can we enhance instruction practices to align with student needs? Ah, such a great question. Um, so we have and I didn't present it here because time wise we wouldn't be able to use it. Um, we have been working with digital skills. Um, 1 second. We have been working with a checklist to identify what skills learners need based on the goals that they're setting themselves, and then based on that, how do you align to these? How do you create some of those opportunities? Sometimes starting with a story is a great way to start a story that's aligned to whatever career component that they want to do, or if they're trying to help with their kids, starting that conversation on technology and identifying those steps. Reality is a lot of the students do know how to use technology. It's just they don't know how to use a computer. They know how to use a phone, or they know how to access YouTube because it's an icon. They don't know how to open a browser, go type in youtube.com and go in. Some kid open a browser and just type in YouTube and Google it, and that's how they access it. But there's different ways to do that. So this report can help teachers, curriculum developers, and leadership align lessons. Yes, exactly. Yes. And doing that highlight, right? This is your highlight. So if this is one of the biggest things that's really limiting your students, and I'm using right, this is a good one. Mouse pointer to insert or change text. Maybe it's not, but maybe that's not the one. Navigation menu utilize common controls for screen interaction. If this is a limitation for us for learners to actually be proficient when they're going online, then these are things that would need to be built into instructions, and how Catherine is mentioning is kind of aligning some of these skills into the lessons themselves to making sure that students are proficient. Oh, it's 5 o'clock. Um, I will hold on if you have any questions, if you would like to talk a little bit more. Um, being respectful, it's a Friday and you have a weekend ahead of you. I appreciate very much for you hanging out. I will send out the information between Monday and Tuesday with the recording. Depends on how fast the recording comes out and all that stuff. Um, and the slides. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, everyone. Have happy Friday, happy weekend, and yeah, thank you so much.